Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. It's your boy, Illeagle 86. It's your gal, OW Nerdbomber. It's your boy, also, Techtic. And a third boy. We are joined once again by our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Steven Keller. Also your boy Steven Keller. Steven, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a nice Sunday afternoon. It's a little crispy outside. We went from like 80 to a freeze warning tonight.
Oh, wow, that's a big swing.
You know,
have you started having
swing.
foliage hit the ground yet?
Yeah, we've had the foliage.
When you walk, say on the sidewalk or whatever, do you walk in a straight line or do you do a zigzag pattern to maximize your crunchage?
I just walk.
Okay, yeah, that's the normal answer. Yeah, same. Yeah,
he's an adult. Yeah, I do love a good crunch. We are starting to get a little bit of foliage droppage over in our neck of the woods as well. I should say, too, on the topic of weather, our collective thoughts are with all the people in the Southeast. At the time of this recording, there's some stuff going on.
They don't have crunchage.
No crunchage. Well, there is crunchage, just of a different nature, I feel like. I believe the hurricane's name is Helene, has been wreaking havoc. So our thoughts with everyone who's been affected by that. But we're going to take your minds off of it with a fantastic show today to kick off the month of October. It's officially October as of the time that this recording drops. So you can celebrate right here at the Online Warriors podcast. Nerdbomber, I called you OW Nerdbomber before.
You did.
Which is really, that's my
Twitter handle.
Your Twitter
handle.
handle.
But I mean, you can call me whatever you want.
You meant to say the OG.
Yeah.
OG.
The OG Nerdbomber. It's as good a time as any to shout out our Twitter handles, though. OW Nerdbomber, I'm at OW Tech. I'm at OW Illeagle 86. We have at OW Techtic and our main show account at Online Warriors 1. Anything we say in the episode, you're perfectly entitled to go over there and yell at us about. That's what it's there for. That's what the accounts are there for. We're here to interact with you and, provide opinions, put up polls, do whatever we want to do. It's the internet.
Now, Illeagle.
It's most time a fun place.
I'm going to throw you for a loop here because normally I feel like you give us our opening segment, but I actually have a question, especially since Steven is here. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but when you record a podcast, such as this one, this wonderful, awesome podcast.
I'm doing it right now.
What is your podcast snack or beverage of choice?
Well, that's a really fantastic question. I'm really glad you asked that. No one asked me that.
Well, I want to know.
Inside baseball question. I would say typically just a bottle of water. Still not sparkling. I'm a simple man. I never eat during the show. If you hear me chewing during the show, I don't know what I'm chewing on because I don't think I ever eat when we record. The most you'll ever get from me is like occasionally. One time, like a year ago, I managed my way into receiving a bunch of like Tic Tacs. I got one of those multi-packs of Tic Tacs. I would occasionally have a Tic Tac during the show, but usually bottled water. Right now, lemon LaCroix. Shout out to LaCroix. My wife may or may not have an addiction to lemon LaCroix, and it's kind of rubbed off on me. So right now, that's it for me. I'll 180 the question on you. What about you?
So I feel like I've maybe mentioned this in the past. I coined the term sad girl seltzer, and I have to clarify, I am not sad. I'm usually excited and stoked to record a podcast, but now...
No, you're sad. You're sad. You can't undo it. You're sad
but
now.
I'm always reaching for a sad girl seltzer lately, so I think...
time of the year.
It's that time of the year, It's kind of like dark and dreary, so it's perfect sad girl seltzer time, and it just bubbles the mood, because all the bubbles, so... I'm getting bubbly for you guys. Got a nice kind of bubbly. And then snack wise, I typically don't have too much of a snack, but sometimes like chocolate, or if I'm like sick or something, a cough drop, or if I'm nauseous, a gin. But
I love that you're sick so frequently. You're like, yeah, sometimes I'm eating cough drops.
Yeah.
During the episodes in which I'm sick, that's basically what you just said. Techtic, anything for you?
I refuse to drink for the same reason you refuse to eat, but...
Are you worried about burps? You're worried about burps.
I'm worried about the sound of the glass being placed back down. But I do eat a handful of some kind of sugary snack before. I like I've been eating those Nerds gummies or like
so
fruit
good.
snacks or like Swedish fish just so that I can be like hyperactive and goofy. Just because I'm not the one that does all the talking on the show, but I got to be on for my one-liners.
Nerds gummies, like
elite.
That was the creation. They're very good. They were created in a lab as a way of like, what's the most sugar we can get into the least amount of space? And I feel like they just crushed it with that. They're really unbelievable. If you haven't had any of these Nerds gummies, you should go buy some. But if you're a diabetic, definitely don't, because it's I can't even imagine what the back of the bag of those things says in terms of like how much sugar is in it. You don't look, you don't read it. Steven, you know, certainly not as frequent a podcaster here with us, but are you drinking anything right now?
I'm boring. I got my Nalgene full of water.
Oh, I had a Nalgene. Would you believe that I broke a Nalgene? Because isn't Nalgene one of those things that they're like, it's indestructible, we'll send you a new one? I broke one a long time ago. I feel like this is the opposite of an ad. I feel like you were trying to do an ad for Nalgene, and I was like, actually, I broke mine.
Yeah.
But very reliable brand overall. I think I don't even remember how I did break it. I think I did something stupid. Water is really the best. I think that when I was in like grad school and like my 20s, not to age myself, I was like, water? No. Gatorade, soda constantly. Just any sort of sweetness in my beverage, I will take that. These days, I feel like lemon LaCroix or like bubbly, like you said, like that's as sweet as I will go with my beverages. It's just like, I think I've just evolved to like water is just the best. And I think that's fairly common. I think most people, when they get into their 30s, they're like, actually,
give me that H2O.
Like Gatorade is hydrating, but it sometimes makes you thirstier. I can't remember the last time I had Gatorade.
There's a lot of salts. I mean, the whole point of Gatorade is to give you your electrolytes back if you're working out or doing some sort of athletic endeavor. So I think there's a lot of salt and sodium in Gatorade, which could be why you're becoming more thirsty if you drink that.
Yeah. I evolved to a higher state of being beverage-wise when I hit my 30s, but that did not happen for me dietarily. I still just eat garbage, pig, just awful stuff all the time. And, I'm still here, so all's well that ends well, I suppose. We have a fantastic show today. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that came out of the state of play last week. We're not going to go through all of it. We handpicked a few games that we're going to do some deep dives into. And then there were a couple of really big trailers that dropped in the past week. The Last of Us, if you listen to this show at all, you probably know that I in particular am a big fan of the franchise, but I think all of us were a really big fan of the first season of the show, and we got a trailer for season 2, so we're going to talk about that. And this is a bit of a tease. We're going to talk about me potentially getting back into the MCU with Thunderbolts. And in fact, maybe we should start with that one, because I just kind of want to just give my take on it immediately, which is that I think it's the best trailer we've seen from the MCU in a long time. This was easily the thing that most had me thinking, maybe I should get back in. And we can maybe unpack a little bit and like try and determine exactly why I felt that way about it. But first, I'm going to ask the question that I asked before we went to air here, which is, what is the deal with the asterisk? Does anyone here know what the deal is with the asterisk? Because for those that don't know, the title is stylized Thunderbolts, and then there's an asterisk on the end. Almost like there's some kind of like footnote that's supposed to go under it of like, these are not actually the Thunderbolts. I'm sure that's not what it is, but do we know that? Does anyone know that? Or am I just shouting this question into the wind for our listeners to potentially answer?
My guess is because there's also Thunderbolt, the superhero.
That is a Marvel character you're referring to? I did not know that. This is, so just to provide a little bit more context before we dive into the trailer, this is going to be the 36th MCU film. That's just something that I can see because I just pulled up the Wikipedia page for this so I can mention the cast, the release date, all that stuff. 36 films. So that they've been doing this a long time, obviously. We have a lot of people coming back from previous things in the MCU. We, of course, have Winter Soldier, who most people by now know very, very well. We have, I guess, do we call her Black Widow now? Is she the new Black Widow? This is maybe context that I don't have because I didn't watch Hawkeye and I know she was in Hawkeye. Is she the new Black Widow officially? So again, I'm just asking questions, but I don't know what to call her.
I mean, that's what they alluded to at the end when Red Guardian was first introduced.
Right. Red Guardian also here, and he was in the Black Widow movie, which I did wind up seeing. We have Ghost, who I believe was in Ant-Man and the Wasp. We have Taskmaster, who I believe was in Black Widow. And we have U.S. Agent, who was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the show on Disney+.
Okay,
we also have... Go ahead.
There's 6 of them, correct? Right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe
maybe
that's
what the asterisk is. Because doesn't an asterisk have like 6 little spooky things going on?
Oh.
Maybe it's more like a symbolic
thing.
I'm sure it has like dual meaning or even triple meaning because this is the MCU. Everything has so many meanings. But like maybe it's just the team logo. Because like the Avengers has their A logo. Maybe this butthole asterisk star thing is going to be like a tongue-in-cheek Thunderbolts logo.
I'm sure that's how they want it referred to, the butthole logo. Yeah, so I'll turn it over to. I want to turn it over to Steven first because I want to get an update from you, Steven, on where you're at with the MCU because I've talked ad nauseum on this show, as you know, and as I'm sure most people that listen to it know, about how I'm just kind of over the MCU, but I don't remember where we left off with you as far as this franchise, what this trailer does for you in terms of, when this comes out next May, are you going to be going to see it in earnest, or are you going to wait to see how it is, or are you just totally out? What's your take here?
Well, I'll see it no matter what, just because I see every movie that comes out that's big, but I feel like this is a series where I'm going to have to watch some older stuff. I don't know who any of these people are anymore. Like, it took me 3 times of watching the trailer to realize Ghost was from Ant-Man and the Wasp, because I don't remember the villain from that movie at all. So, I haven't watched any of the TV shows, so if Florence Pugh's character was in Hawkeye, I guess I have to watch that too. And
me too, buddy. Me too.
So,
Which, you have to watch that regardless.
Movies.
Okay.
Yeah, I know my marching orders.
I just wanted to make sure to call you a punk bitch on the air.
Oh, snap. He's feisty today, guys. He's feisty.
It's the Nerds Gummies.
Just fired up
wasn't the first time.
Fantasy football.
Wasn't the first time, won't be the last. Yeah, we were talking fantasy football before we aired, and Techtic got a little spicy. So that's where this energy's coming from. Yeah, no, I do think that Ghosts, I think her look did change too. So that was another thing that, because Ant-Man and the Wasp, by the way, that came out, at this point, we're talking 4 years ago or something. So it's also just totally in the realm of possibility for people not to remember that character. I think that is the character here that is most far afield for people. Granted, it's not a character from one of the shows, but she is the most bygone character here. It is really interesting to see Winter Soldier in the position of kind of being the anchor in terms of what tethers people to the, well, I'm just going to say it, better era of the MCU. He's kind of the last vestige of that here. That's not to say I don't think he can carry that role, but it's just interesting seeing him in that role relative to the roles he's had on various teams before this. It is, you've mentioned there's a lot of connective tissue here with other properties that you may or may not have seen. I would hope, I get, maybe this is me giving the MCU too much credit, which I usually give them no credit, but I would hope that, Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios have collectively developed an understanding based on feedback they've gotten on social media and the way a lot of their properties haven't performed as well as they would like. The prime piece of feedback being hey, we don't know who these people are anymore. People aren't watching every one of these shows on Disney Plus, and that is the kind of thing that a movie like this, which is going to be 2.5 hours long, it's capable of working around that. It's probably capable of introducing, a U.S. agent, understanding that half of the people that watch the movie aren't going to know who he is. It's a bit of a writing challenge, but I think it is one that maybe they can accomplish. That's certainly the most important thing here that they're going to have to do. So I think the real question is, can they do that? But Techtic, resident comic expert, which I refer to you as all the time, put you on the spot. I'll ask you a non-comic expert question, which is just kind of the same one I asked Steven, which is, where are you at on this? Watching the trailer, did you feel like this looked good? Do you have more questions than you have answers, et cetera, et cetera?
So what's interesting to me is the Thunderbolts were originally founded by Baron Zemo, and he's been done with, he's in custody, the MCU already kind of put away with him, and he founded them as a way as hey, the world is without heroes, it needs new heroes, we're going to found the Thunderbolts and be the heroes, get everyone's trust, and then be psych, we're actually dickheads, and take over the world that way. But he's not in this, and a lot of the people that we know are in this are already known good guys. So their founding is basically a completely different premise. And in the comics, eventually the Thunderbolts is led by Hawkeye. So does this all spin off into that, where there's this group of ragtag people that want to be heroes and they just need a leader to do it, and then he steps into the fold, which I don't really like. I liked him as the mentor for the next generation of Hawkeye. So I kind of struggle with where this is going to go. I like the Suicide Squad ragtag gang of people. Right. I've always loved that premise. It always just kind of, I have a soft spot for it because I think we're all human and we're all flawed. We're not these perfect heroes. like it's portrayed, and it's more real to me. So I'm really interested to see how it goes. And to your point, I'm gonna have to watch a lot more Marvel stuff to get on board.
Yeah, I mean, Suicide Squad is the parallel here, right? I mean, the big term is anti-hero, where like you said, these guys are, I think, all of them pretty much established as quote unquote good guys, but all of them are also edgy or have some sort of edge to them, right? I don't know if it even goes as far as Suicide Squad, where like those guys, like multiple of them were like in prison when the movie started. I don't even know if that's going to be the case here, but that's kind of what they're trying to create here, right? However accurate that is to the comics or previous renditions of this group is maybe irrelevant. It's just a matter of how it plays with the audience. And, it is interesting seeing the MCU kind of dabble in anti-heroes, more recently. Like, would you call Deadpool an anti-hero? Like, I feel like
at one point he was
angling towards
but
that.
But maybe not anymore. Like, I think at one point he was the, prime example of an anti-hero, but now I think he's just kind of mainstream hero.
And this certainly isn't going to be a Deadpool style group of anti-heroes, right? But again, it's just the idea of superheroes who aren't just, Captain America, just very generically good, right? I think it'll be interesting to see the MCU handle a cast of characters like that. There's certainly no promise that it'll be good, but that may be the thing that really kind of attracted me to this relative to other projects that the MCU has done recently that I just feel like is very kind of just white noise. I think this looks a little bit more interesting. We haven't really talked about Lewis Pullman yet. He's playing Sentry, who I really don't know much about. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what this character's powers are. The trailer doesn't really tell you much about what the character's powers are. He may or may not be the character that's bringing all of these other people together. I have to imagine that Julie Louis-Dreyfus' character is also going to be fairly well involved in this, as she may be kind of the handler for this group. But, I think this could be... It's been a little bit, I think, since we've had an MCU ensemble movie, and we're getting one here. I think one of the main things as far as can this go is what kind of chemistry does the cast of actors have, and also how well do we feel like we know the characters going in? And if we don't know them very well, can we establish knowing them very quickly? I think is the most important thing. Nerdbomber, before we kind of wrap up the Thunderbolts discussion, anything else that you wanted to add that someone else hasn't already said? Because I feel like we just said a lot of stuff and I'm getting to you last.
No, I mean, I feel like it's been pretty well covered in terms of whether or not I will see it. I'm still a little bit on the fence. I think this is, besides, the Agatha series that just came out, probably one of the more compelling Marvel offerings that I've seen in a while. So I'll probably have this on my list. Will it be something that I see like I used to on like launch night? Maybe not. But hey, that's what Disney Plus is for, I guess, right?
Right. And besides the whole MCU thing, I was just talking to someone and, Steven, I guess close your ears because it sounds like you still go to the theater all the time. But like, I used to go to the theater so much. And I don't know if it's just me being older and just like more of a bad human or like just, I don't know. But like, I rarely go to the theater anymore. And I know that's the question that I often ask when we go through trailers like this is like, are you going to go to the theaters for this? And I think in 2024 so far, I've seen two or three movies in theaters, which is a very low number for me. Steven, what are we talking here? Are you in like the 50s? Do you keep track of this sort of information?
I do have a letterbox list. Let's see here. I think I'm only in the 30s though.
Well, those are pedestrian numbers.
Yeah, I've cut back quite a bit from what I used to do when I had Movie Pass and all that stuff.
Shout out Movie Pass. God, love that service so much.
38 for the year in theaters.
That's still pretty good.
Would you mind my asking, are you a Stubbs A-lister?
Yeah, that's how I do it.
I did the Stubbs A-list for a little while myself. It was I did it in the immediate wake of Movie Pass, and obviously it didn't feel as good. So I think I kept it. I think I had it for like a summer, and then I was like, all right, summer's ending. I don't have as much time anymore, so I guess I'm going to kiss this goodbye for the moment. I never got it back, but
I think Techtic and I are like big summer moviegoers. I think probably this summer we saw 15 releases and didn't wait for them to hit home. But then like once the winter hits, man, I don't know what it is. I don't like to leave my house. There's snow out there. I want to be in a cozy blanket. If it was more socially acceptable to bring like a Snuggie to a movie theater, I'd probably go more in the winter.
I will tell you with
Everyone
a high
does
degree
that
of certainty.
Really? Man, I'm jealous.
Really?
No one does that here.
Blankets, yeah.
I see. Yeah, we do need to normalize that societally. I'll tell you right now, with a high degree of certainty, that the movie we talked about last week, Charlie 17, I'm gonna see the crap out of that in theaters. That is gonna be a for sure.
Mickey 17.
Mickey 17, thank you. Gosh, embarrassing. Mickey 17, going to see the crap out of that in theaters. That comes out in January next year, so I'm going to start 2025 strong. We'll see if I can get my numbers up. This movie comes out in 2025. May 2nd, 2025. Thunderbolts is hitting theaters, so I don't know. Get hyped for that, or don't. I do think that, again, the main thing I want to impart, because people probably see me as an MCU curmudgeon, and not without reason, I think this is one of the better things that has come across lately from the MCU, so if ever there was a time where I was going to kind of get back in the game, it would probably be this. So, and that's ironic because I'm also reading this as the last film of Phase 5 of the MCU, so maybe I just skipped Phase 5 entirely.
What was
I don't really
Phase
know
5?
how the phases line out.
Like, what was the overarching story?
Let's see.
Was there one, or was it just introducing a bunch of new characters?
I believe it was supposed to be Kang, and then,
Right.
Bad thing. All the stuff that happened with Kang happened. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Secret Invasion, Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously. Captain America: Brave New World is going to be Phase 5.
I get what the movies were, but like it felt like every other phase had an overarching story that connected them all. And like I'm not saying that they don't, but they kind of don't. Like this has been the most standalone-ish, aside from introducing like maybe some interconnecting characters, that the MCU has felt in a while.
Yeah, well, you're touching on one of the problems that I have. I would say, people give the post-credit scenes a bunch of crap from the Infinity Saga, but they just kind of kept things rolling and just kind of foretold the impending doom of Thanos coming. And yeah, we didn't really have that in Phase 5, did we? We'll see if we do in Phase 6 whenever that happens. I'm assuming that's starting like right after this movie comes out. But anyways, May 2nd, we are getting Thunderbolts. Let's stick with trailers. We'll get into State of Play after the break, but for now, let's move to Last of Us Season 2. We got the first trailer for this last week. Now, I will be upfront and say that there was realistically no way that this trailer was going to turn me off of like The Last of Us Season 2 or just watching the show in general. But I do think, having played the second game and kind of knowing what's coming, at least in that sense, assuming they stay true to the games and the story of the games, I think this trailer did a very, very good job introducing some new characters, showing us that we're going to get what a lot of people probably show up for who don't play the games, which is just a lot of zombies and a lot of Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey just doing really, really hardcore character acting. I think this trailer did a very good job not tipping its hand in any way as far as what's coming. I'm not going to get any more specific than that, but people who have played the game know what's coming. So yeah, I'll turn it over to you guys. First, I want to ask the question first, because Steven, have you played either of the games? Have you watched any of the show?
I've done both.
Done both. So you're fully up to speed on what I'm talking about here, because I don't know, if I recall correctly, Nerdbomber and Techtic, I don't think you guys have played the second game.
No, not yet. And actually, as we were watching this trailer, we were
no
like,
spoilers.
We were like watching this, and we're like, when the first season's trailer came out, we were picking it apart because we had both just played the first game. So we were like, okay, we can like tie these to scenes in the game. And this one, we were just kind of like, well, this looks really good, but like we can't connect it to anything aside from the guitar scene. I feel like the guitar scene was very heavily publicized. Yeah. And so we're like, okay, we have to make sure we play this before the season comes out, which is in 2025. And that's not that far away. So we have the copy of it. You let us borrow it. So we were actually just discussing which one of us is going to try to crank it through first.
It is. I will, and we're not talking about the trailer for the show anymore, but I will tell you, it is also a longer game. So bear that in mind. I think it's like twice as long, maybe, as the first game.
I know you're all going to cringe.
So you do need to carve out some time.
But maybe this is a moment where I put it on easy mode just so I can experience the story. You guys are easy mode haters, but man, like sometimes if you just need to if you just want the story experience, sometimes easy mode, it is the way to go.
Do it.
Steven, if I recall, okay,
Steven
so you're saying do it.
I
couldn't remember if you were an easy mode purist or not. Or rather,
this
a
type
normal
of game,
purist.
I feel like you can go play the easy mode.
I do seem to recall that the second game was also more challenging, but maybe that's just me.
So even more
in the time
evidence
that's passed,
why I should go for easy mode.
It's also possible that in the time that passed between my playing the first game and my playing the second game, I just became worse at games. But I do think that, again, without getting into specifics, because we can't, because I really don't want to spoil you guys for anything. I think this trailer did the right thing in terms of giving people like Steven and myself, there were certain things that I could see that I was like, oh, I remember that part. I remember that part. I remember this person. Certain very important characters you can very easily see because they're keeping the character designs true to the game. Certain locations, same thing. I would also generally expect, though, and I do want your opinion on this too, Steven, I would generally expect that the show is going to start plotting a little bit of its own course here, because the second game, I would say, is long enough where season 2 is not going to be just what the second game was. I think that's very, very unlikely to occur. So I think they may start kind of changing lanes here a little bit and not just staying in one lane and doing what the game told it to do. Steven, was that the read you got from this at all, or am I making that up completely?
Well, I haven't played the game since it launched, so it's been quite a few years. So I feel like I'm wondering if they can maybe split the game into seasons and see if they take that route instead.
Yeah, that's I would say that's my expectation at this point, is that they're going to wind up splitting it into 2 seasons. I don't think you could split it into 3. I think at that point you'd be milking it a little bit too much. That's not to say that after a season 3 that concludes the events of the second game, that they wouldn't then do something else with the characters within the same universe. You know, I don't want to get any more specific than that because of spoilers, but like I do just think that this is going to be really incredible again. I think the main thing that drives this show, and will continue to drive this show, is Pedro Pascal's performance, Bella Ramsey's performance. I think you also have a lot of heavy hitters coming in. Caitlin Dever is like a really, really good actress.
She's in a lot of great stuff.
I've really enjoyed her in a lot of things. And again, without getting into spoilers, the role that she plays is critically important. And in some respects, may determine whether the season sinks or swims. So I have every ounce of faith in her, to be clear. We only saw her in the trailer for about 2 seconds, but her presence is going to be very important. I'm also a very, very big Jeffrey Wright fan. I want nothing but the best for him, and I think his role is going to be interesting as well, and I'm very excited for the part that he plays and the group that he leads. So I'm kind of realizing as we go through this that maybe it's hard to talk about this more than just, hey, this looks great. But can we all just take a second and Catherine O'Hara? I will say I don't, and I like Steven, I haven't played this game in a minute, so I don't remember if her character is a character from the game, but I just love her so much. And I'm very curious to see what she's going to do within this universe that, like, I think nowadays we see her as like the Schitt's Creek lady or like the Beetlejuice lady, like playing these characters that I think can be a little bit over the top and are often utilized mostly for comedic value. And this is obviously a very, very different situation for her to be in. I certainly think she can hack it, but I'm interested in that too. So
I'm really excited.
I don't think this is one where
Catherine O'Hara, if she is in something, I will watch it. And even though I was planning to watch season 2 of this anyway, because the first game I found to be amazing and the show was amazing, like Catherine O'Hara, you plop her in anything, you got my butt in a seat.
Yeah, and you know, we can kind of touch on the dramatic question at the end of season 1. It was the same dramatic question as the end of the first game, which is basically, you know, Joel does what he does. Again, without getting into specifics, in case someone's going to go watch season 1 and hasn't yet, or play the first game. Joel does what he does, and he lies to Ellie about it. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say that a good chunk of the narrative arc of season 2 and in the second game, it's Ellie reckoning with that, and Joel reckoning with that too. And again, the trailer gave us a taste of that, certainly, and it implied that that's what's going to be happening, and that's not really too much of a surprise. But just super, super excited for this. I think it's going to be really, really excellent. We got a 2025 date for this. I don't think we got anything more specific than that. I would hope early half of 2025, but it's certainly, you know, just going to depend on a lot of things. Also worth noting, September 26th, which is when this trailer came out, is the day in The Last of Us world when the cordyceps virus kind of just, it's outbreak day, basically. So that's a cool thing for HBO to do to time putting this trailer out. Anyways, for right now, we are going to take a short break. But before we do that, I get the special treat of thanking Steven in person for everything he's done for this show. As a Patreon producer, Steven's been producing on the show for quite a while now. He produces as a supporter on the highest of our 3 levels of Patreon support, which is the night level on our support tree. That gets him, of course, this occasional guest spot, as well as access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, input into the game segment, which he's playing in today. special benefit there. He gets to kind of game the system a little bit. And of course, they shout out every episode. There's also a Squire level of support, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and a page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So you can head over to patreon.com/Online Warriors Podcast. Get the details there. Consider giving back to us and, joining Steven in his fight to, keep our podcast going and good. Hopefully you think it's good. So again, thanks to Steven. Again, patreon.com/Online Warriors Podcast. We'll take a short break now before coming back to talk through State of Play.
Hi, I'm Kevin DeCristofano.
And I'm Sean Flanagan.
And we are the Ninja Turtle Nerds, your weekly podcast covering the Ninja Turtle comic book series one issue at a time. Plus the video games, the cartoon show, the VHS tapes. If it's Ninja Turtles, we'll cover it. Ninja Turtle Nerds is available wherever you get your podcast.
All right, we are back to talk a little bit about State of Play. This was a essentially half-hour showcase that we got from Sony earlier this week, Tuesday the 24th. As I mentioned at the top of the show, just in the interest of time, there were like 30 trailers in this thing. They really crammed a lot in. We're going to focus on 3, essentially, that we really thought were kind of worth digging into a little bit. The biggest one, I think it's fair to say, the biggest trailer that we got was Ghost of Yōtei. Maybe that's me editorializing a little bit.
I think that was the headliner for sure.
It felt like it was the headliner. Ghost of Tsushima was like the biggest deal, and also like kind of one of my major regrets right now in terms of like games I have not played that I feel like I would enjoy. I could probably go out and get Ghost of Tsushima right now for like $20, and I just haven't done it. And it seems like a game I might really get something out of. Ghost of Yōtei, we got a trailer here that was mostly cinematics, I would say, focusing on a different region of Japan. There's a new story with a new protagonist, certainly, but otherwise it looks like it's really going to be more of the same. So I guess one of the things I want to ask you guys is that okay? Because I think that's perfectly okay. I don't think every game needs to reinvent the wheel or reinvent its previous installment necessarily.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that, I'm sure there's going to be a new evolution in terms of some of the gameplay options that you have. I think by, jumping characters and telling a new story, though, that's where a franchise like this can thrive. I look back at the Spider-Man games, and I know they did evolve some of the skills that you could, have between Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2. I get that there were differences in the game mechanics, but they weren't that drastically big. At the end of the day, you were still swinging and you were still I'm not going to say button mashing, but your combat wasn't that different. And where those games excel is, you already have tight gameplay, but then building upon the story and introducing more to the story arc. So I think, in my opinion, it's really cool. I know people have mixed opinions on this, but I think it's really cool that they're not sticking with the same main character. I feel like that's something that's very easy and a lot of franchises do. You just follow the main character from game to game. But by jumping to a different person, I think it opens up a world of possibilities for the franchise in general, because you can go anywhere with the franchise moving forward, having established the fact that you're jumping from person to person and time frame to time frame. I think that's super cool.
But I do think they should show us actual gameplay. I think mostly cinematic trailers do a game not justice at all, because to what Nerdbomber just said, there's probably subtle different game mechanics and character specific things that you can do. Show us.
I think that will
get us
come,
hyped about it.
But this is the first time. This was basically the announcement trailer.
It will absolutely
and
come.
For an announcement, just to get people hyped about it, I think a cinematic is probably fine.
Something that I find interesting, and I seem to recall Ghost of Tsushima's trailer doing the same thing. The gameplay that it did show, because it did show a little bit, it was very sparse, but it seems to focus a lot on you're on a horse, you're riding through a field. And I had the same thought watching the Ghost of Yōtei trailer that I did watching the Ghost of Tsushima trailer, where they showed that, which was, this is the part of a game that I typically want to skip. And maybe that's just a me thing. There are probably a lot of people who would find that to be, soothing or breathtaking or any number of positive adjectives. For me, it's not really what I would show up for. Steven, I want to ask you about your experience with Ghost of Tsushima. This feels to me like a game that you would have played. So first of all, before I ask my follow-up question, am I right about that?
I have played Ghost of Tsushima, and I have platinumed it, and
okay, so you're all in on this.
Did not enjoy my time playing it.
All right.
Wow, what an interesting.
I'm excited for this, and I want to replay Ghost of Tsushima because a lot of my gripes with the game, I believe they ended up patching fixes for, which would probably make it more enjoyable.
So it wasn't the actual like gameplay or story that you had issue with. It was more just like bugs and stuff like that.
It wasn't, it was like, so a lot of the game is you find random people on the side of the road and you fight them and you do a duel. And to do the duel, you have to change your outfit to get the right sword and stuff equipped, and you're like stuff equipped. They made it so it's a hot switch now, I think. Whereas when I played it, you had to go into the menu, select each part of clothing you wanted. And so it's kind of just
slowing the game down.
Yeah. And so, and it's also just an open world fatigue type game where it's just like an Assassin's Creed game where you're doing base clear outs. You're doing these little side missions where it kind of delays the story. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's not as, it's one of those games like we talked about earlier with Last of Us, but except Last of Us is way better of a game where it's a game where you come for the story versus the gameplay.
Yeah, when I look at it, and I think to some extent when I look at Ghost of Tsushima, like I think Red Dead Redemption as well is like, it's almost like this is trying to be Red Dead Redemption, but set in feudal Japan, where it feels like there's elements of that where you're kind of just like, you get on a horse, you go do something. Oh, but while you're on your way to do the main quest, you find something that you need to help someone fix. And like, I tend to drown in games like that, where like, I tried playing Red Dead Redemption 2 because everyone said it was like the greatest game of all time. And I had to like go into town to talk to someone about where to get new boots. And I wound up like taking a bath and like doing all this different stuff. And it just like, I get overwhelmed by that. So that is my fear with these games in general. And maybe that is why I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima. You said Tsushima. I'm going to say Tsushima. Why I haven't played that game is like, maybe I was worried about that. Cause like, I thought the combat and the stealth elements looked really cool, but maybe that's a, small portion of the gameplay relatively. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, because I think one of the cooler things, I would assume, you are notably every time you've come on this show, I think you've made it clear that you are a movie guy. Have you played Kurosawa mode much?
I did not.
Ghost of Tsushima?
No, I played it with English and in color.
Yeah, so for those that do not know, Kurosawa mode, named for famous Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, is you basically play in black and white, and it's like supposed to be very cinematic. Like, I think they also probably take a lot of like HUD elements out just to make it look like you're playing a Kurosawa movie, which I think is very cool. I don't know how I would find the experience, but I think it's a cool thing for them to add, I guess. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this. I mean, I think it's certainly going to be a very well-polished game. Steven, it sounds like you're going to play it, even though you said you played the first one and didn't enjoy it. You're kind of just hoping that they fix a lot of the stuff have fixed a lot of the stuff that you had issue with.
That's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, I'll play it.
Nerdbomber Techtic, I don't know, did you guys play the first one? Or are you interested in it?
I did not. And Steven, you can verify this, being that you played it. But I heard that it was very difficult, like a Souls game almost, in terms of like combat. And that's just not my jam. No, it's not?
No.
Okay.
It's not like that at all.
A few people told me that, and I was like, oh, that's not, like, I really wanted to play it, but I'm like you, and I don't really like Souls-like, so then that immediately put me off. But apparently those people just didn't know what they were talking about, so.
Yeah, I don't remember it being difficult.
I watched some gameplay of, like, from the first one, you do, like, some night raid, and it's raining, and you have to kill a lot of ninjas. I thought it looked more like a game that I've started playing that I should have kept playing that I stopped playing, which was Horizon Zero Dawn, where it felt very similar to me of like you have some gadgets you can use and like you're clearing out, you can use stealth to whatever extent you want. It didn't look particularly challenging, but then again, I was like watching a gameplay video where like probably the designer of the game was playing it, right? So probably a little bit hard to tell.
Are you ready for my hot take?
Oh my gosh, I'm always ready.
One, you asked the question, am I going to play this? No, I'm not going to play this. And two, I thought this was one of the more boring games on this showcase.
Woo!
Spicy take. I like how you saved that until we were about to move on. Just so that's the opinion that everyone is left with, is that this was one of the more boring ones. I can't fault that, again, because like I said before, they're showing you riding a horse.
Give me
field.
Gameplay and I
it's
might
like,
be
right.
in, but right now, no.
So at one point, the wolf comes up to the protagonist and growls at her.
Oh shit, there's wind over there. Never mind.
And then decides to growl at something else. That didn't get you going? That wasn't doing it for you? Hey, fair enough. Yeah, this game's coming to PS5 next year. So if you feel like Techtic, maybe take a pass. But if you don't, it's probably going to be really good. Let's move on to ArcheAge Chronicles. This is, just full disclosure, this is the one that Techtic picked. So I assume you have much to say, Techtic. I'll say that I thought it looked really cool.
One of the most interesting looking games in the showcase.
I think this game looked like, what's the game that was supposed to be such a big deal and it looked like it sucked? I don't even know if it's out yet. Was it called Avowed?
You're thinking of
was it just called
yeah.
Avowed?
Ooh, you're gonna do some like console war bullshit here, aren't you? Sorry.
No, I'm not gonna do some console war. But I'm not doing that.
Joking.
I just think that this is what I want that to look like. I feel like this is what Avowed wants to be. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but like the combat looked really crisp.
It had crisp combat. It looks like it was like man's redemption arc against the gods, but also you're fighting gods and also you can become a god. Like, I'm all in. And it was like beautiful set pieces.
If you give me a fantastical setting with otherworldly fantastical creatures, like, I'm in. There aren't that many, like, I feel like there was a heyday of like medieval / fantasy settings back in like the Xbox 360 / PS3 era. I feel like there were a ton of games like that. And maybe I'm just thinking of Skyrim, but I feel like there was like a wealth of games in that genre. Like Dragon Age was around then. And I know those are like two big tentpoles, but it just felt like there were a bunch of offerings if you liked that kind of game. And for a while, I feel like we didn't get a lot of those. So a game like this is exciting because I freaking love it. It's
a lost genre for me. And I think the reason it is for me, and I'm speaking just thematically here, I'm not even talking gameplay style, because I think the reason it's thematically a bit of a lost genre for me is that it's often so closely tied to very heavy RPG. Like you mentioned Skyrim being like, I think one of the canonical entries in this genre, and it's too heavy for me. And it's very possible that this would be the same thing. It's hard to tell from this trailer whether or not that's true. I mean, we pretty much, the gameplay that we see, because I'm sure Techtic likes this one more than Ghost of Yōtei, because we did see a lot of combat. We didn't see a lot of menu management, and you tend to not in a trailer for a game, even if a lot of the game is doing stuff like that. So it's very possible this would wind up collapsing under its own weight for me. But in the meantime, I think it looked exactly the way I would like a game of this ilk to look, if that makes sense. Steven, the fantastical, I can't remember the terminology you used, Nerdbomber, to describe this genre of game, but the fantastical medieval genre, where are you at these days with this genre? Are you an open book with it? It's not something you do much of.
Keep it far away from me.
Whew.
Keep it far. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
not even just keep it.
I want nothing.
Keep it away.
I want nothing to do with it. I see dragons. I see potions.
I think I insulted him when I
see mage stuff. I'm out. I just check out.
Do you want to dig into that at all? Like, what happened to you? What was done to you by a dragon or a potion at some point?
I think it's just always been the way I am. Fantasy has never tickled my fancy. I've always been sci-fi, and I've always viewed them as competing genres. And so, they
kind of are. I think especially in the RPG space, they are direct competitors, right? So I can certainly respect that, because it's the same thing I just said. I'm not really an RPG person. It just doesn't really scratch the itch for me. I still wonder a little bit what dragon hurt you, but we don't need to, dig into any trauma that you have. I do think this one is going to be good. I don't know that I'm going to buy this one, because again, it's just not, I would need to dig into and understand a little bit more the RPG mechanics of it all, because I just can't walk around and talk to folks. I can't spend time doing that.
I think that might be part of it. I think, thinking about it, it's most of these types of games always turn out to be 80+ hour games. And
and
we'll talk about what you've been up to about a game I've played a lot of this past year, which was a rare thing for me. And that's just because, I don't play games for 80 hours often.
Well, and Nerdbomber, prepare yourself. You're about to cringe out of your clothes or just die. But, just in the interest of keeping things fair and balanced, when you said 80-hour RPG game, and in particular a game that I couldn't get into, Mass Effect, that was a sci-fi game that I think just had a lot of weight, and I couldn't do it. And I think most medieval games have that level of stuff happening that I just don't want any part of. So, Nerdbomber, are you okay? Did you survive that?
I made a noise and I shoved my feelings down.
I heard the noise. I just chose to kind of plow through it. I do not know when this game comes out. and the date is not listed here. It just says next year. So it's coming out next year. Techtic, as the kind of I'm really into this boy for this game, is this one that you're thinking about buying or wait and seeing? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
If this was given to me, I'm playing it, is where I'm at.
Nerdbomber, write that down. I think you just put something on a Christmas list or something.
He's getting ready for the holidays.
Very good.
I have been building the list subtly. Not so subtly, but I have been.
I was going to say, it can't be that subtle if she's saying what she's saying right now. Let's round things out here with Hell Is Us. This, I thought this game was doing a lot of real interesting things. This was my selection, first of all. I am a sucker for dystopian, something happened to the world kind of stuff. This, it's another genre. This is interesting because I would not call this sci-fi, certainly. I found this one predominantly compelling for a few reasons. One, self-admittedly, in the PlayStation blog post about this game, it says, the game won't hand answers to players on a silver platter. Instead, they will need to pay attention to what they see and hear to connect the dots and make their own discoveries.
You're going to hate this?
Presumably I hope I don't need to Google things. I hope I'm discerning. Maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, but it sounds like an interesting experience. The other thing that really kind of drew me in is ostensibly this takes place in a modern world, right? We see a lot of ties to the modern world having fallen apart. It seems like because some kind of disease ravaged the world, but there's some information to be gathered, and there's these creepy looking creatures that maybe Nerdbomber was scared of. I don't know. We'll get your take in a second, Nerdbomber. And this guy's walking around with a sword. I just respect the hell out of that. And I think this is, again, me, like, the reason that I don't play fantasy games where you're doing a lot of sword play is because of the RPG-ness of it all. I'm very open to a game where I can hack at some stuff. And I think this is going to provide me that, while also just looking very cool and brooding. So that was me on Hell Is Us. Nerdbomber, did this look too scary for you? I don't know this was necessarily a scary game, but those like creepy white dudes with the mouth holes where their faces should be.
So
pretty alarming stuff.
It was a little creepy, but then I started to realize that it reminded me a lot of Control, especially like the red blocky pixel things that they were either coming out of or devolving into when you killed them. I'm assuming you kill them or whatever you're doing to them, destroying them.
I'm sure you're killing them.
So
you're trying to.
I don't know. I got through Control and I thought it was creepy but not scary. And there's a distinction here. I can play a creepy game. I can't play a scary game. Like, specifically, if a game has a bunch of jump scares, I am out. I can't play that because I'm basically waiting for the next jump and I'm playing super slowly or looking through my fingers and then I only have one hand on the controller. But if it's just like a creepy atmosphere, like, I'm game for that. So this, it gave me vibes of, Control. I know this is more like sword play than it is like gunplay, but like it's almost like Control and Metro and maybe like a Chernobylite game sort of like had a baby and then added swordplay in. And I don't know, that kind of appeals to me. It's a little creepier than I would normally lean to, but if I happen to have this available to me, I'll play it. Okay, so similar Techtic. That seemed less like someone putting it on a list than what Techtic said before. Don't buy it for me, is what I'm saying. But like if Techtic has it, then I'll play it when he's done. Right.
I thought the monsters
go ahead.
did not look scary at all, and that's where it falls short. They look too clean. That's my gripe.
So you'd be bored. You'd be bored in this universe. You'd be like, I'm not scared. I respect that. I would be scared for sure. Steven, where are you at with this one? I don't have any specific questions other than that. Does this look like something that you would be into?
It intrigued me. It did look spooky. It did give the Control Alan Wake vibes. And I guess in its third person. So at least it looked third person. So I think I'm in. But I
still need to play.
It'll be a wait,
Alan
probably.
Wake 2.
I'll wait till it's free.
Yeah, this one. I can't remember the last time I paid full price for a game. And I'm like, in so much as I'm interested in this game, I'm not sure that I would pay $70 for it because I'm just not sure that it's a known enough quantity for me. It sounds like that may be where you're at too. And I also just mentioned I need to play Alan Wake 2. This allows me an opportunity, by the way. You know why I haven't played Alan Wake 2? There's no physical copy of that game. Did you guys know that? Do you
have it?
Wait, I don't know if we've talked about this on the show. Thank God. Can they hurry up already?
But yeah, that's what I've been waiting on. Is once they announced no physical, I was like, all right, I'm out.
I couldn't really believe that choice, to be honest. I was like, how is this a thing that you're just not coming out with a disc at all? And It was like a very principled decision, I guess. But yeah, it looks like they're coming out with of course, it's only coming out physically as a deluxe edition.
October 22nd.
Which is going to...
Very soon.
Which is going to be $80. So,
I mean, that's really only $10
not
more
exactly
than what the normal edition would be for a regular game. So...
Yeah. I definitely want to play that game, but I was Steven, I'm glad to hear you had the same reaction, which was basically just like, if you're not going to give me a physical copy, I'm out. Because also like I can't get it used. So like right now, Alan Wake 2, it's been out for a year, I feel like, and it's $60. Like the price has not really gone down that much, and I feel like that's predominantly a product of it not being a physical game. So anyways, F that noise to Remedy Entertainment. You shouldn't have done that. That's neither here nor there with respect to what we were talking about. But that allows us a seamless transition into What Are You Up To Wednesday. This is the part of the show where we talk about what we've been up to. And as is tradition, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to let us know what he's been up to over the past few months. And he kind of teased something there. So, Stephen, the floor is yours.
Oh, boy. Soccer has taken over my life, I guess is where I can start with.
In a good way, or is this a cry for help?
Maybe a little bit of both. So I've been... kind of related to what Nerdbomber and Techtic mentioned last week, where they went to some local sports teams. I have tickets to 4 local soccer teams, season tickets, 2 professional and 2 college and so a lot of my weekends are filled with me going to multiple games. Like this week, I think it's a Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. I have a game to go to, so I've just been kind of busy going to those games, and then. And the tease for what I played a lot of time in is also related to Nerdbomber and her NHL 24 obsession was me with FC 24, which is now moved into FC 25, which came out, I've been playing for the past week. And so I put in, since March, like 122 hours into FC 24 and am now jumped into FC 25.
Do you feel bad when you lose progress? Like everything that you did in FC24, obviously, it doesn't carry over. Do you feel bad? Because that's what I'm looking down the barrel at right now. Is like NHL 25 coming out, and then I lose everything.
A little bit. I mean, I started playing Ultimate Team a lot with 24, and so now I'm doing Ultimate Team 25, and it's like, oh yeah, my team is not good anymore. I don't have any more 99s, 98s on my team. And so I just got to work my way up. But I think it's because the challenges they give, I think that's the itch is just the daily, weekly challenges, which makes it different for me. So I can just do those.
So, I was going to ask, I have to imagine the only way you could put in that many hours in a game like this is if you're essentially playing its career mode, which I'm sure is called something else. I did not realize that FIFA ended their partnership with EA. So this is basically the equivalent of like FIFA 23 was in 23. So now it's FC. I have FIFA 07 and I love the crap out of that game.
Yeah.
I don't play it super often, but I do think the soccer games are very well done in general because I also have FIFA 12. I can definitely respect playing, would you say 122 hours?
Yeah, I had 122.
That's you don't sound proud.
Well, I just, like I said, I never play games for over like 100 hours. It's like Animal Crossing, Destiny 2, Tears of the Kingdom, and this. Like, that's it for me for 100-hour games.
That's a solid stable. I'm trying to think the most hours I've ever put into a game, and I don't know what the number is, but it probably wasn't 122. I say that by way of saying that's impressive to me.
If you got into the Zelda franchise, I think you can. It is easy. Zelda, Animal Crossing, those kind of games, you can sink. I mean, Rocket League is another one. We've probably sunk days into it.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now how bad my time of play is in Rocket League, and I'm kind of scared, to be completely honest. So continue speaking of
I know.
I'll let you know.
You've Nerdbomber, I know you have mentioned before, I think in a much more cry for help way. Like, I hate to use that phrase again, but like, I think at one point you did a What Are You Up To Wednesday where you're like, I'm just like, grinding in Rocket League. And I was like, in a good way. And you were like, not really. I have like 200. I remember the number was insane because I think you have said the number on the air before.
All right. So it's giving me the cumulative time. I can math it out, but it says I've played Rocket League for 14 days and 18 hours. So 14 times 24, that's 330. Oh my God, 336 hours of my life in Rocket League. That is horrible.
That sounds right. That sounds right to me. That is, it's very impressive. I don't really have another way to put it. I have to imagine whatever game I've played the longest, and I don't even know what game I have played the longest, but it can't have topped out past 80 hours. No, it probably, like, Steven, you mentioned Destiny 2. I was playing a lot of Destiny at one point. It might be Destiny, the first Destiny for me, might be like the most amount of time I've ever put into a game. Because it's one of the, like, it's also like, I'm not sure there are many games where you can put 120 hours in to anything that's like just a campaign. I guess, FC would be one of those, but like the games that I play, like shooters and stuff, like there aren't many or any that have that long of a campaign, and I don't do a lot of online play. So anyways, that is very impressive. And you're also, now it sounds like you're grinding on watching sports in real life. Yeah. So all soccer all the time, baby.
Pretty much. And then also one quick thing is I started playing Echoes of Wisdom, the new Legend of Zelda game.
How is that?
And so that is taking up my time now. So far I'm liking it. It's a little weird just doing your little puzzles with no combat because you just have to call bad guys that you learn about. But yeah, so it's different, but it's fun.
Techtic, I believe, is about to give an update that he's still playing Tears of the Kingdom. So I guess, Techtic, why don't we stay with Zelda and go to you? Is it fair to assume you're going to say, I'm still playing Tears of the Kingdom?
I am, but that's not what I want to talk about on what I've been up to. There's a lot of game to it. But the thing I want to mention is I played a round of golf for the first time. I've had clubs for a while. I've done the driving range, but I've never actually done a 9-hole course, and I did it. And it was fun, guys.
We need to go next year because
why next year? Now, unpopular opinion.
It's too cold.
Shut up.
It's going to be too cold. In like a week.
Golfing in July is stupid. Golfing when the weather's nice and crisp, because you got to wear your nice little polo and all other stuff. No.
You guys just heard him say "shut up" to me, right? This is
I told you he was spicy.
I want to golf. I want to golf.
I can't golf in a
work
sweater in this environment
and some khaki shorts. Like, that sounds perfect to me. Let's go next week. Let's go right now. Right now.
8 o'clock at night.
Right after this, we'll go do it.
Get after it.
Yeah. No. I promise I'll throw it back to you in a second for the rest of your update. But I went to a driving range this weekend for the first time in forever. I don't own clubs. I just own a driver. I own a driver and a putter, and I own a golf bag, a really nice golf bag that I won at a bachelor party that has no other clubs in it.
I can lend you some clubs.
So
let's go right now.
My goal for myself is to, before the next season, because there are seasons for golf. Before next season, get an old secondhand set of irons or something, and then we should.
I got drivers, I got woods, I got wedges, I got putters. I'm ready to go. Let's go. But yeah, it's fun.
Well, and I'll turn it over to you. Sorry, you really triggered me there because I was going to mention that in my update.
No, that's it. I'm done. It's fun.
I'll go next then. I guess I'll just keep things rolling. I did go to the driving range. I mentioned that. Kind of finishing a lot of shows right now. That's really the main thing I have to say. We finished The Bear, which I know we're late on that. I did not love the ending of The Bear. We don't need to get into it, but I thought the ending of season 3 was like pretty aggressively mid at best. We're working towards the end of Rings of Power, which is coming out on a week-to-week basis. I think there's 1 episode to go. We did also, what else did we? Oh no, we're still working on Only Murders, which is also week-to-week. So in the meantime, when we're waiting for other shows to come out, we just burned through the first, however many episodes there are of English Teacher, which I know you guys have previously shouted out on this show. And it's really fantastic. I don't want to retread and say all the things that you said about it, and I don't remember what you said about it. So I'll just say that we watched it. We've watched all of it that we can, and it's very good. So shout out to that show. Yeah, I watched those shows. I went golfing. Otherwise, my life right now is not that interesting. So I'm going to turn it over to Nerdbomber. She can wrap us up on what are you up to Wednesday, and then just take us. Well, no, actually, I'm the host. So do your update, and then I'll do the quiz.
So I'm still playing Astrobot. I got bogged down in all of like the challenge levels. I don't think any of you have played it, right? Steven, I know you said you were going to buy it, but I don't remember if you actually played it yet.
I bought it, but then Plucky Squire and Zelda took over, and FC.
Which is understandable.
So I'll get to it.
It's still very good, but there are like challenge levels. So basically your triangle, circle, square, and X, there's like those buttons fly off into space, and there are challenge levels for each of those. And I am not as dexterous as I guess I used to be. Like there are usually like one, because each button has 4 like challenge levels where essentially if you die, you get brought back to the beginning. So you have to get through all of these really hard, challenges in one swoop without getting hit by any enemies, because it's like a 1-hit kill. And I can usually get through like 3 of the 4 for any given button pretty easily, but there's one that I always get stuck on for each button, so I'm working my way through all of those, but I'm still having a blast with Astrobot. We also have started watching Nobody Wants This, which is the rom-com. I think we might have talked about it when the trailer came out, but this is the Kristen Bell and I can't remember the lead guy's name.
Adam Brody.
Just came out on Netflix and it is really good. And you know what? We need more rom-coms. I say this every time I watch a good rom-com, but this is a series, not a movie. But so far, I think we're like 5 or 6 episodes in. The chemistry is great. The banter is great. The main character is a podcaster. So like, obviously I relate.
Well, this is in part market research too, since we covered this.
Yeah. So it's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. I think we were about to go to bed last night and I was like, can we just do like 2 more episodes? And we did.
So you can expense your time watching that show on the podcast.
Yeah, we're billing our time accordingly.
Okay, excellent.
And then the other thing I want to shout out quickly is I read a book called Shark Heart, and I feel like this got a little bit of hype before it came out and released. It's like a fairly recent book, but the gist of the book, and I don't want to...
What is it called?
Shark Heart.
Okay.
I don't want to give too much away, but essentially the gist of the book is that the main character, one of the 2 main characters in this book, he finds out right after he gets married to his wife that he has a genetic illness where he will slowly turn into a shark. And in the universe of this book, it's very like magical realism-ish. People basically will eventually, like, it's a very rare disease, but you will, transform into an animal over time. So it's not like he's like the first person ever to go through this. It's like a known disease. It's very comparable, I think, comparing to, any fatal illness, and just how the book kind of approaches it, the relationships between the characters.
What changes first?
Legs.
Turn into like fins?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty sick. Way to go.
But yeah, it's a very deep read. There are some times when it's not so fun because there's just a lot of emotions, as you can imagine. It's kind of like a metaphor for illness and relationships changing in the face of illness and stuff like that. But I will say it is a very good book. What did you say, Techtic?
Is there smut?
No.
Okay.
No, not at least not that I can recall.
Well, there was Body of Water. That's why I'm asking. I was wondering if Smoking Water.
Are you at Shape of Water?
Thank you.
Shape of Water. Are you asking because you wanted smut or you didn't want smut?
If your significant other is turned into a shark and you still want to like embrace them and stuff, I'm just curious if there was any of that kind of scene.
No, like he turns into a shark, not like Shark Man, like full on shark, like chomp chomp shark.
He's just a shark straight up.
Weird.
Chomp chomp shark. Does that help, Techtic? Just chomp chomp.
Oh, okay. Now that you okay, yeah, it's clear now.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good book. It's a very deep book. If you're in the right mental headspace to handle something like that, I would definitely recommend it. It was one of the more unique reads that I think I've read this year, and I'm quickly approaching my like 30 book in a year goal. So it was really good. I enjoyed it.
I think I'm at like 21 books. I kind of fell off a cliff, but I'm trying to be kind to myself. So thanks for the reminder to not be kind to myself.
I mean, do what you want to do. I'm very much in this mind frame. I don't know why I even set a reading goal at this point, because we have a season of life for everything. If I want a game, I want a game. I don't want to have this like goal of I need to play 60 games this year. Like it's stressful and it doesn't make it enjoyable. And then when you want to do something else, like when I want to read a book, I'm like, man, I should be gaming. Or if I have this reading goal, I'm like, man, I should be reading. And just enjoy what you want to do.
People always ask me, hey, what are your top 3 games that you played this year? And so I try to play at least 3 games. And so book reading be damned. But I pick these games like Tears of the Kingdom that take up your whole fucking year. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed in myself.
I've read 17 books this year. 17.
How many games did you play this year?
Oh, you can't ask me that. I don't know. I don't keep track of that as well. So I'll have to get back to you. But I did write down a bunch of questions about Sabrina Carpenter for a quiz. So would that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're headed into our quiz to close out the episode. As we close out all episodes, we of course have Steven with us here. So it's going to be a 3-person. There's 3 contestants, guys. You get the gist. Before I go into the quiz, which is, as I mentioned, about Sabrina Carpenter, I will go through the records. Nerdbomber 13-6, top lady right now. I am 12-8. Techtic 7-17. Just going to dramatic pause to let that sink in. And Steven, 1-1. So, Steven, this is a very important week for you, determining whether you're going to have a winning season here or a losing season. It's critical. I know you're dialed in. I just want to make sure the stakes are clear. This is, of course, Price is Right style. Everyone gets an answer of 1 or a +1 once per game. We will start with Nerdbomber because she has the best record, and we will cycle the starting player from there. It's good that I'm hosting this quiz because I probably have incidentally heard a Sabrina Carpenter song, but I could not sing any Sabrina Carpenter song.
Are you living under a rock?
Just want to set expectations. She did. Here's the way in which I'm most close to her. Getting into question 1, she got her start, her big break, so to speak, on the Disney Channel on a show called Girl Meets World, which was kind of a follow-on to Boy Meets World, which I loved when I was a kid. So the first question, directed first to Nerdbomber, how many episodes of this show aired in total?
I feel like this only got 2 seasons, and I think they were like shorter than normal. So I'm going to say there were 16.
16 total episodes. All right, we will go to Techtic next.
25.
And over to Steven.
I'm splitting it down the middle, 20.
Well, he's off to a hot start.
That's
Techtic.
me.
That's you, buddy. This had 3 seasons from 2014 to 2017, and there were 72 episodes. 3 standard 24-episode seasons. Techtic, you're first on the board. Congratulations. And you're the first person to answer this next question. Sabrina Carpenter, currently on her short and sweet tour. It's currently ongoing. How many shows is she playing on that tour?
61.
Okay,
Gosh.
Prime number, very random feeling. All right, Steven seems chagrined by that answer.
That's just a lot of tours.
Sabrina's amazing.
I'm going to say, oh man, it's probably international. I'm going to go I'm just going to say 32.
And Nerdbomber.
I'm going to go ahead, and I apologize in advance, Steven, but I'm going to use my +1 and say 33.
Very effective +1, 47 shows on the tour.
That far off.
So
That's
you weren't far off. You did bust, which per the rules means you don't get a point. But you were close. You were right in there. Nerdbomber's on the board. Steven, feeling the pressure at this point. I'm just going to editorialize. I think you're probably feeling the pressure.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
But you get first crack at this next question. How many VMAs was she nominated for this year? Video Music Awards.
7.
Nerdbomber, you are up next. Your +1 has been utilized, just as a reminder.
I feel like she got nominated for 4.
T-Bone.
so I'm gonna +1 Nerdbomber.
Interesting tactic.
So you're going to say 5.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that would have worked if Steven hadn't gotten the answer exactly correct.
Woo!
So it's 1-to-1-to-1. She was nominated for exactly 7 VMAs this year. She only won 1 for Song of the Year, which was Espresso, which leads me to my next question. Presumably this is a song that at least some of you know, which is good because I, again, do not. What's the runtime of Espresso in minutes and seconds? And we're back to Nerdbomber being the starting player here.
This is fairly short, I feel like. I'm going to say 240.
Techtic.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say it says 2 minutes.
Why are you doing a Godfather impression? I've noted your answer.
Seconds.
2 minutes, 15 seconds. Yeah, your answer's in the books. Steven, we come to you last here.
No, in 3
Runtime
3
of
minutes.
Espresso. 3 minutes. You just flew a little too close to the sun, so Nerdbomber gets the point here. 255. 255. So Nerdbomber currently with 2 points. You other 2 chuckleheads with 1. You guys have a shot here to tie things up with a classic here for the last question. How many followers does Sabrina Carpenter have on Instagram?
On the gram alone?
On the gram alone.
She's got...
Is this Christopher Walken now?
He's doing it again. just let him do it.
1,273,052 followers.
Woo.
Okay, very, very specific.
Yeah, you can't get
we'll
that
go to Steven
you
next.
can't get that specific with Instagram. Nerdbomber can't use her +1.
Correct.
I'm going to say 15 million.
Nerdy B, that brings us to you.
15 was going to be my guess, so I have to take a second to regroup.
Try Godfather voice.
I don't know if that's going to help me. I'm going to go...
It wouldn't help me.
I think it would just give me the giggles, and I don't know how helpful that is. So I'm just going to say 6 milli.
6 milli. Well, we do have a tie. Nerdbomber and Steven will compete in the tiebreaker. Techtic, you blew it, man.
Can I have the answer?
40.7.
Okay.
40.7
Oh, so I
million.
really underestimated.
Is there that many people to follow?
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the answer, of course, is yes, because that's what the answer
like
is.
a lot of it's bots.
All right, so here's how we're going to do this. Nerdbomber, you are going to text me your answer, and Steven will just say the answer that he is giving when you have texted it into me. Tiebreaker question is, she got her first on-screen role ever in Law & Order SVU. That's just a fun fact about Sabrina Carpenter. How old was she when she first appeared on screen? Okay, Nerdbomber's answer is in, so Steven, you're free to provide your answer at your leisure.
6.
Okay, interesting. You guys both gave the same answer, so I think what that means realistically is that I have to think of
Just
a
have him
different
guess
question.
again.
Yeah, you didn't
Do we
say the
wanna do it
answer.
that way?
You didn't say the answer.
I did not say the answer, so
I had a second answer.
All you want, but I'm smart as
Steven,
hell
would
with
you like-
that one.
okay. I guess you can both submit different answers. The answer cannot be 6. So Nerdbomber, send me another message, and we'll go from there. You guys need to get your brainwaves sorted out. Okay, Nerdbomber has texted me a new answer.
7.
Steven? Okay, so you went in opposite directions.
Oh,
Nerdbomber downshifted to 5, and Steven shifted up to 7, and that puts Steven at 2-1, guys.
Yes!
He's done it. She was 11. She was
Oh,
11, guys. She
wow.
wasn't. She's not that young. I don't know how old that makes her now, but she was 11 when she was first on Law & Order SVU.
I bet her
Probably talked
character
to
was
Leah
5,
Benson.
though.
Who's to say? Certainly not me, because I don't know the answer to that. Steven moves to 2-1. Nerdbomber to 13-7, and Techtic to 7-18. Steven, I feel inclined to thank you for helping me, because I feel like that's the way that I was most assisted.
Yeah, that's what you
I
needed.
could be most assisted by this process. So thank you for that. Thanks to Techtic for another just really great performance. You'll get him next week, I think. I'm hoping for another tiebreaker with you, because I feel like we've had about 1 million tiebreakers this year. That brings us to the end of the show. Steven, thank you so much for joining us once again on the show. Any parting words you have for us or the listeners? Anything you want to shout out besides what you already have?
Go play Zelda. It's good.
Go play Zelda. It's good. You heard it here first, folks.
Doesn't matter which one. Just
Maybe not.
anyone. Just play any Zelda.
That's honestly advice that I could probably take, because I have not played a single
I would
Zelda
jump
game all the
right
way through.
into
It's a
Tears
fun
of the
fact about
Kingdom.
me.
They're not really sequential.
All right, so there's your advice for the week. Steven, thanks again. Thanks to everyone who listened or is continuing to listen, has been listening for a while. You can hit us up on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review there, or Spotify, anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Head over to patreon.com/Online Warriors Podcast if you feel like giving back to the show and like what you heard here. And hit us up on Twitter, handles mentioned previously in the episode. So that's all for now. We will be back next week. And in the meantime, stay safe and keep on podcasting.